Well, welcome. My name is Dr. Leroy Husingay, and I will be your facilitator for Catholic Imagination Online through the University of Mary, CTH 301. And although we're a very small class, I think just 3 or 4 of us, I'm very excited to be doing this class with you online. A bit about myself. My name is Dr. Leroy Husingay again. I have a PhD in New Testament from Duke University. You might have heard of the basketball team. Master of Divinity from Princeton Seminary, and I have 2 jobs at the university. 1, I teach in the theology department, and 2, I work in public affairs directing something called the Christian Leadership Center. You can find out more about the Leadership Center at clcumary.com or about myself at my personal website, leroyhusingay.com. I am new to online teaching, and I'm very excited to do it and to do it with you. It will be a different experience, I think, as I prepared these courses. I've thought a lot about this. Normally when I lecture in class, I'm very interactive. Students ask questions, I respond to them, I kind of feel the room and where things are going. Here I am talking into a little green light on my MacBook Air, and that's a bit weird to me. So we will have to work together to work through technology to learn about the Catholic tradition and the role the imagination has played therein and its effects on the imagination. So, what this means for you is that you will have to be a very motivated student. It's easier for me to check up on you when I see you face-to-face 3-4 times a week in class to know who's present, who's not present, who's paying attention, who's not. Here online, that's a little bit harder. You can be much more anonymous. Further, we are doing a 4-credit class in 8 weeks, and if you've looked over the syllabus yet, that is, well, a little bit insane. In any event, it simply means you're going to have to be motivated. Now, I want to talk a bit about the syllabus. Let's look at major assignments. Get the syllabus in front of you if you don't have it yet. Let's look at that bottom of the first page, second page, major assignments. First of all, participation, you need to do 3 things. Watch the online lectures, or sometimes I might do them as handouts. And I sometimes might put keywords or goofy little words in there at some random point, like 1937, right? And you have to tell me what the keyword is so that I know you actually watched the video. I won't do that to you in this video, so you can turn it off right now if you're bored. Second, you need to do the reading for each session. I'll find ways to spot check you. And 3, you're supposed to interact with your classmates' session responses online. They will write something and you need to respond to it. This altogether is worth 30% of your grade, and thus each subsection is worth 10% each. You need to respond to each session's material. Now, I will try and make the lecture resources available Monday mornings so you can get to them. Hopefully now, since this is Monday night, you've been working on the handouts, but in any respect, what you need to do for each session is write a total of 8 responses, 1 for each session, having done the reading, having watched the lecture, and that sort of thing. Each response needs to be 1 to 2 pages double-spaced, just 250 words. Not research papers, just using the notes, the reading, that sort of thing. It needs to be written in impeccable English prose and posted on the discussion section of the website so that your fellow students may comment upon your reflection. You can do a couple different things here. Either a rigorous summary of the given session's themes, angling for the thread that holds everything together, or some smaller aspect of the session's themes and choose to focus on that, such as one of O'Connor's stories or one of Hopkins' poems. So I'm giving you a lot of freedom here and counting on you to take the initiative to come up with something coherent and manageable and to do really good work. Each of these 8 responses is worth 5% of your grade, and thus the category is worth 40% of your total grade. Responses are due at 8 a.m. Thursday each week, and you have then about 2 full days till 11:59 p.m. Saturday each week to comment on them. Then finally, a final project. You can do either a traditional written paper right? The good old-fashioned college essay, 10 double-spaced pages, something really good. Or you could do something creative. If you have mad skills in art or music or writing, you could do a creative project. Write a short story, write a poem, draw something, paint something. If you do that, I want 1,000 words, 500 to 1,000 words, detailing how you and why you did the project the way you did. How did the Catholic tradition inform your imagination, your creative project? Okay. Now, let's talk a bit about the text and resource materials. This is a lot of books. Many of them are fairly small, but they're very good. They're all very much worth reading. What I've basically done is taken one book or one thinker and plugged that into one session. I have about 8 thinkers, 8 creative artists, O'Connor, Hopkins, and done one per week. It's a breakneck pace, but I think it's the best way to do it. The traditional course on site spreads things out a bit more, so you'd read Hopkins throughout the semester. I thought it might be a bit complex for us to do this online, so instead of spreading all that poetry out throughout the semester, what I'm doing is having you just spend one session on Hopkins and reading a whole bunch of poetry. That'll allow me to give you a good introduction to poetry in general, to Hopkins in general, and then also to the particular poems we'll read. Okay, course communication. Check your UMary email account, as I'm sure you do. You're supposedly required to once a day, since it's the official means of communication here at the university. And I happen to be on the computer way too much, doing my various jobs, maintaining a couple websites, and that sort of thing. So, I will get back to you quickly, if you have a question. All right, now to the outline and schedule. All right, first of all, a couple notes. Nota bene, there in Latin, means take heed, note well, pay attention, that sort of thing. Responses to the reading you need to have posted by 8 a.m. Thursday each week, and then you need to respond in the next couple days to your colleagues' responses. Let's make comments on them. Those responses to your those responses to your colleagues' responses are due just shy of midnight Saturday at each week. The reason for that is I don't want you working on Sunday. So they have to be in by 11:59 p.m. Saturday, and then I make new stuff available Monday. Now notice here too that the class ends officially Friday 10/19 at 5 p.m. Thus your final project is due then, and that final week you only get basically a day and a half to respond to your colleagues' responses to that last session's reading. University policy, KD policy, is that everything has to be done, when the course is done, so I can't extend that any. All right, so let's look at the sessions a little bit. I just want to talk to you about the flow. The first session is kind of about Catholicism in general and the big issues, how Catholics conceive of the relationship of faith and reason. Then we get into salvation history. The Catholic faith is a faith that takes history and the Church's role in history very seriously. Not just an abstract set of doctrines, but a community, right, founded by Jesus, inheriting the Jewish heritage, moving through time from Jesus to the present day. So we need to talk about the category of story, of salvation history. Okay. We'll also read Christopher Dawson's little piece, The 6 Ages of the Church, which is foundational for Catholic studies at the University of Mary. Dawson was a brilliant Catholic historian, not just a historian, but what we might call a speculative philosopher of history, that sort of thing. All right, so we get the basics in session 1. Then session 2, we focus a little more narrowly on what it means to be happy as a human being. And we're reading a guy named Josef Pieper, and you will see that you're reading 2 of his books for that session, and that's kind of it. They're not very long books, but they're very good books and very detailed books, right? So we'll talk about what it really means to be happy. Most people think happiness is merely fulfilling desire, and that's not happiness. That's actually slavery, because then you become enslaved to your desires, right? Happiness is found, as Jesus puts it, right, in losing one's life for his sake and the gospel. Happiness is found in serving the other. Happiness is found somewhere else than trying to fill your own belly, metaphorically and often literally speaking. Although I must tell you, when I'm done with this video, I am going to go off and make some jalapeno and tomato poppers because, frankly, I need a midnight snack. Shh. All right. The other thing you need to know about me is that I've got a real sense of humor. Sometimes it's dry and it's droll. It works in a real classroom. We'll see how it works online. So if I say something batty in a video, just deal with it. Okay, so session 3. Now we're going to get a bit into the modern crisis. We're living under what I, following a guy named Neil Postman, calls technopoly, where technology just kind of rules us, and technocrats rule us, and we're estranged from nature, and we're estranged from God because we're living under these conditions of technopoly. And so we're going to read a little book by a guy named Romano Guardini, whom Pope Benedict, by the way, just loves, who is no longer with us. He was a man of a prior generation. It's entitled Letters from Lake Como, but it's all letters about how human beings try to live as real human beings when technology is trying to estrange us from God and nature. Then, in session 4, we will go with the incarnation and read the entire Gospel of John in any good modern translation. The incarnation is the idea, the fact, that God became flesh, that God became meat, like chili con carne, in Jesus of Nazareth. And this is crucial. It is the center of Christian faith, of Catholic faith. It is radical. There's nothing new under the sun except for the incarnation. That's the one really new thing in the world. It means that matter is good, not bad. A lot of people think creation, matter, the body, those are all bad. It's also the warrant for sacraments, right? Sacraments are essentially God doing stuff through matter. And in the incarnation, we have God doing stuff in and through matter, material. So we have to talk about the incarnation at some length. I've got a couple handouts to go along with that from Augustine, as well as some classic liturgical texts. Then in the middle of the class here, we get into literature. We will read Flannery O'Connor, the often cranky Southern novelist. She's a little spitfire, sharp with the tongue, sharp with the pen. If you don't know her, this will be a great discovery. If you do, dive deeper into her. Truth and Mystery in Fiction. So we're going to read several of her essays there. They're just from the book. I haven't bothered to give you the page number because you're smart enough to find them, God willing. She'll talk about what fiction is, what it means to be a Southern writer, what it means to be a Catholic writer, truth and fiction, these sorts of things. Okay, then we'll actually read some of her short stories from Complete Stories. Revelation, A Good Man is Hard to Find, The Enduring Chill, Good Country People, Parker's Back, and my favorite, The Misfit, which will involve a brutal murder, right, and the resurrection. It's pretty cool. So that's O'Connor. Then we'll move into poetry. Gerard Manley Hopkins was a Jesuit priest and a wonderful poet, and so we're going to read Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits. We're going to read his spiritual exercises, at least parts of them, Rules for the Discernment of Spirits, which would have shaped Hopkins as a Jesuit. And then we'll get into Hopkins' poetry. It looks at like a lot. Some are long, some are short. Some of this stuff you might recognize from general culture, some of you might not. So like God's Grandeur, right? From memory, Hopkins says something like, the whole of creation is charged with the grandeur of God, like one of the most famous lines in poetry. So this will be a very good session. You know, we'll talk too more broadly about poetry, what it's for, how to interpret it, these sorts of things. Then session 7, we're going to talk about the visual arts and contemplation by reading a book by a certain Taylor called Learning to Look. And there you'll really learn a lot about the visual arts, its theory, its practice, but also spiritually what it might mean to contemplate it. And then I'm very excited about section 8. We are going to round out the class by talking about liturgy and architecture, two passions of mine. reading an entire book by a dude named, a scholar named Dennis McNamara, Catholic Church Architecture and the Spirit of the Liturgy. If you've ever wondered why churches look like they do, why medieval Gothic churches or earlier Romanesque churches or later Renaissance churches are structured a certain way, believe me, there's theological and philosophical reasons, or why modern and contemporary churches often look the way they do. McNamara will get into this, and so we'll talk about whether beauty is objective or relative, and how the concept of beauty has shaped Christian architecture, and how liturgy has shaped Christian architecture. On that note, one thing you could do for a final project that'd be really fun would be to, having read McNamara's book, real fast, go visit 2 or 3 local Catholic parishes, or local churches, even Protestant churches would be fine. And once you've read McNamara, evaluate them, compare and contrast them, explain them. What are they trying to do? How do these churches speak, right? What does a particular church suggest to you about beauty, about liturgy, about God, right? So, just some things to think about. Well, that's the course in a nutshell. I'm very, very excited to teach it. I think a couple of you, if not all of you, are here on Mary's campus. You can always find me in person. Feel free, please, to make use of the discussion boards on the website or to make use of email. And let's stay in touch as we move forward. Take care and God bless.